If the Nightmare Court truly understood the pain they cause, they would realize that they are evil. With such understanding, surely they would turn away from Nightmare and back to the dream.
Ridiculous. They relish the suffering. They've known all along what they were doing, and they delight in it.
Claw Island. Can we retake it and save Lion's Arch?
I believe so. But that will not be your first test. The dragon seeks to destroy its enemies before they can strike.
If my friends are in danger, I have to go to them. They have no warning. They'll be slaughtered.
I will go with you. Our fates are bound together, and from this day forward, we fight as one.
Farewell, valiant souls. May your wild hunt be successful, and may your courage illuminate the dark of night.
Wait, what? So hold on. Zaitan attacks Claw Island, sends a force to Lion's Arch, and he's realized that the orders are working against him? Oh my god, well, we have to go save them. The Priory assailed. Let's get there. Toot sweet, guys. We gotta get back to the mountains, and fast. Well, welcome back to the Shiver Peak Mountains. Under a bit of stress right now, the story step, the Priory assailed, underway. Defend the Dermond Priory from Zaitan's army. Our main objective being to meet Traherne in Lornell's Pass. It seems, if the Pale Tree is right, and she probably is, it seems that with the casualties, skirmishes like Claw Island, some of the losses of the people within Lion's Arch, Zaitan has learned about the Priory. Now, the Priory and where it's located in the mountains is no secret, and the fact that we exist is no secret. However, the kind of ridiculous magical weapons, such as, I don't know, the Sanguinary Blade and so on, the details of what is in our reliquaries, seems to have caught Zaitan's attention, and he's apparently going for a big attack on us. Why exactly? To claim those artifacts for his own, or simply because he feels threatened by us? Maybe a mix of the two. So here we are, about to go defend. Now, you'll notice I'm quite far away from the actual Priory itself. In fact, we're more north in Lornell's Pass than we've ever seen. We're right at the top of Lornell's Pass here. And that's quite curious, isn't it? We're at a place called the Thunderhorns. In fact, there is a scout just over here who does refer to a few things. Let's quickly speak to her. I know, the Priory's under peril, but look, more exposition, guys.
The Dermond Priory may be influential in these parts. Their main base of operations is here, after all. But they're not the only game in town. The Nentor Consolidated Mine has carved out a vital role as the main supplier of ore and gems for Lion's Arch. Lately, though, they've had trouble with Skrit. Their deliveries have slipped as a result. They need help, or it'll likely get worse.
I love that scout. One of the big differences between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 is in the original game, whenever you found a new outpost or locale, you could click it on the map and it would give you a bit of region lore. And that doesn't exist in Guild Wars 2, which is a real shame. This scout is essentially delivering that. The idea that this place might be an outpost, we could click it and we would learn that it is the primary base of operations for deliveries of ore and gems to Lion's Arch, which is somewhat reliant on them, as you can imagine, a mercantile place. It's brilliant. It really, really is a very, very cool scout. Anyway, yes, we are here, not for any real story reason, except that the game, for a very strange, odd way, makes us come here to enter the instance. You notice our green starburst to start off is here. Funnily enough, and here's where things get really confusing, if as Cariflower we hadn't chosen to recruit the efforts of Karis and Tegwin, but we'd instead made another choice, this starburst wouldn't be here at all. We'd still be at the Priory assailed, but the starburst would instead be way down here. It's a bit of a glimpse into the spaghetti code going on with the game under the hood. It's the same with the Vigil. There are typos for one of the Vigil missions in Lion's Arch if you pick one route versus if you don't pick another, despite the fact that the instants themselves are exactly the same. Alright, okay, so the Priory assailed. The one benefit of this starburst, I guess, is that we don't get to see the state of the Priory before we visit it. That could send some chills up your spine. Let's get in. The Priory assailed. It's some nice loading screen actually there. That tablet you saw in the loading screen, is kind of interesting, actually. It looks a lot like the Dermot Priory shield, which I did mention in a previous video you can translate. The translation, just to be clear, is details on the searing, and we should be more than familiar with Ascalon at this point and what was going on all the way over there. Not that the Sylvari really have had much look over there. But yeah, that's what the Dermot Priory shield translation actually is. Okay, loud combat music, creepy starting near this staircase. At least Johan's here. Hey, dude, are we alright? Please tell me we're alright. We have some new skills to show off too, guys.
Look there, the pale tree was right. The Dermot Priory is overwhelmed. We'll have to fight our way in.
The scholars need our help. We need to gather everyone we find. Build a fighting force as we head in.
Good idea. Be cautious, Magister. These Orions are fueled by the dragon's hatred, and it is strong right now.
Don't worry, my friend. I'll watch your back, you watch mine.
We must protect the Priory at any cost. If we lose their knowledge, we could lose the war.
So, here, Trahan mentions that this assault is fueled by dragon hatred. I think there's kind of an interesting thing going on where we know at this point in the timeline the Order of Whispers is being attacked and the Vigil's being attacked, but I reckon Zaitan's motivations might be different for here at the Priory. In the case of those two, I think he's under threat. I think he doesn't like the networking the Order of Whispers are capable of and the things that they might dig up, and I don't think that he is comfortable at all with the galvanization of and mobilization of forces across Tyria within the Vigil. But when it comes to the Priory, I really do think it could be hatred, and I do think it could be greed, as we find dragons are greedy.
Mother help us! Zaitan's army has grown!
I think he's going for the artifacts that are here, and partly in self-defense, surely, but we know as he corrupts and claims, his armies grow. And I do think it's more of an expansionist idea at the same time. Perhaps a sign of hubris from the dragon to do all three at once and get beaten back from at least the Vigil and the Order of from at least the Vigil headquarters and the Order of Whispers.
Are you well?
Tran doesn't give us any extra dialogue here. And, well, yes, they've been referring to a lot of stuff. Check it out. We do have Risen.
Fast as the wind.
Look like mostly low-tier Risen. This is a Risen Char we've got near us. This is a Risen Norn. Caraflower taking note of their varieties. Here we get a Risen Human. It seems like an Asura over here.
Steward Gix! Hurry, Magister! Gix is down there!
Oh god, Gix is all the way down there, but you got so much fighting to do. It's unbelievable. So, I did change our skills a little bit here, guys. We're back on minions, but we're showing off some minions that Caraflower hasn't used just yet. So first, we have the Blood Fiend. Excellent. Second, we have the Bone Fiend. Excellent. Next, we have the double minions, which is also excellent. But here is a final type of minion that I want to show you guys, and we'll cast at the front for defense. It's the Flesh Worm. So this thing cannot move, making it more of a turret than anything else. It will attack our foes. Look at all of our forces here. But the cool thing is the flip-over skill, called Necrotic Traversal, which Guild Wars 1 Necromancers may recognize, and hopefully we'll get a chance to use soon enough. Dude, the Priory are kicking ass! Oh no, but Gix is down. Oh, yeah, former perimeter guys, good. It looks like they've given themselves lots of auras. What is this huge gun? Oh, no! I was just wondering what that was. It blew up on us, stunned Winnet, and her break bar is down here. Let's pull Gix up. Hey, dude, what's going on? We good? How many are there? What is it like below?
That mega laser boat was gigantic. Steward Gix, you all right?
I'm fine. Poor, brave scholars. Our explorers fought well, but we were no match for the Risen.
More undead are coming. What can we do to defend against them?
Go downstairs, to the vaults. Defend the research teams. They can help us raise an appropriate defense. Break out the emergency weapons supply. Tell them to gather every obscure invention and ready every inscrutable device. We are not giving up. Once you clear the undead out of the vaults, get back up here. My magic can only hold back the Risen for a short while.
We'll hurry. Do everything you can, Steward Gix. Just give us time. I'm ready to roll.
Ha! I am a genius!
Look at this. It's awesome. He built this awesome barricade. Now, you might think he's locked all of his Priory allies with him out, but they are allowed through. This is so cool. I love seeing their defenses, that they have this giant cannon. And what's really beautiful about the Priory as well is if you linger around just in the open world and chill here long enough, you will hear some of them murmuring about how Steward Gix has been building defenses up and they're wondering why. And I like the thought that through his intelligence and his stringent use of contingency plans, he might have foreseen this, and this could be what's saving us. It's also very cool that he's the one on the defense mission right now, and we are the ones moving further along. Just a brilliant idea, you know.
Well.
The Priory is all about the artifacts and the magic and stuff, so we're just going to go get all of them and just throw them on a pile. A bit like what Siren was doing. Bless her. Right, okay, so everybody's going to stay up here. Now, another cool thing we did already see. I mentioned her already. Where is she? She's not up here anymore. I guess she went downstairs. Is Winnet. You did just see. We didn't really get to speak to her, but we did see Winnet. Winnet the Fairhaired. And this is the earliest in the timeline that lovely Norn actually first appears. She doesn't feature. Some of you noted this in the comments. She doesn't feature in the early stuff with Siren. She kind of pops up here defending the Priory in a really big, badass way. And then she will filter into the story a little bit more later. Right, okay, so we can go underneath the Priory while they all defend. There should only be basically one entrance here. Hold on, let's have a look. There's this. There's this. This is kind of interesting. I think this instance might have changed recently. So basically, you've got these grated over stairways down. And these used to be, if you're in the open world, they're all grated over and you can speak to an NPC to sort of skip down. But in this instance, you can just walk under and you can kind of see how it all properly layers together because there's no loading screen that you have to go through. And I think this is really cool. This is one of the only real signs that, you know, the Priory isn't some spoofed, broken, fake thing that in the game engine they're hiding the underground. Really, below your feet physically, when you're in the open world, there is the lower levels to the Priory. You just can't get into them because all the grates are over. So it's really, really kind of cool. We can come down and check it out. You get loads of different NPCs defending. Now, there's a ton to talk about here. We've mentioned Guild Wars 1 a lot, and I really think Guild Wars 1 influenced this instance, and it's a sign, I think, of a mechanic that will have been removed from Guild Wars 2 at some point in pre-development. Look at the way... Well, hopefully you remember how this room looks. Caraflowers come down here before. It's a big circle, and going around the circle, you can find all these doorways that people come off of. And you'll notice that the Priory are standing in such a way, they're all under the buff of standing ground, that means they're blocking off the entrances to the middle rooms and the outer rooms. Look at this, all of them, every single time. Now, if this was the original game, you couldn't walk through NPCs like this. It was a mechanic known as body blocking. It was the same for players, and it dictated a lot of the flow of the gameplay in that game. However, when players had very high latency and lag essentially got involved, network lag, it could cause lots of weird things where you'd snap around and rubber band, as they called it, throughout maps. So with Guild Wars 2, they removed that idea of body blocking, which in a lot of ways is less immersive, I think, and affected the game in some of the formats in a big way. So this instance, though, seems to still act like body blocking as a thing. And I wonder whether the devs had the idea for that, especially this buff, right? We've seen it a few times, standing ground. What do you guys think? This is my speculation, that maybe standing ground was a concept for a buff that would enable body blocking on specific NPCs. I reckon that makes sense. And then they would do it in very specific limited capacity, so the lag elements wouldn't become a major part of the game. But that never became a thing. As you can see, we can walk back and forward through, so the whole instance just feels a bit weird. There you go. I was scared to walk forward because this will trigger fights very soon. Here's another amazing thing. We just talked about Winnet and that this is where she is early in the timeline. Guess what some other really weird timeline stuff is going on here? Let's speak to this vault librarian. There are too many of them. Save yourselves, women, children, and me first. Calm down, we're here to help. She says, vacuum magic polarizer. We still have Gore's early prototypes. Here, use this one. And our response here is just give it to me. And what are you doing with that? Put it away. Now, some of you watching this will be like, oh, that's totally normal. It's not normal, guys. It's not normal because Priory players, Caraflower, has never seen or heard of a vacuum magic polarizer. The vacuum magic polarizer was developed in tandem with the Order of Whispers at Ratasum. So, it is a bit of a strange thing that suddenly now in the timeline, it's not the Order of Whispers defense that get to play with the vacuum magic polarizer, it's the Dermond Priory one, at which point none of these players should know what this is. So what I think happened is sometime early in development, the devs probably reshuffled Gore's story away from the Dermond Priory and instead into the Order of Whispers. And then this broke and they never looked back at it. And all these years later, they've never looked back at it. Either that, or you can think that, hey, maybe Gore shared his invention with the Priory and the Whispers were just involved a little bit as well. And the game's treating us really maturely here and expecting us to do lots of playthroughs to understand. But yeah, this is the Vacuum Magic Polarizer appearing at a point in a storyline where the players would never know what it is. Just give it to me. And check it out. We can clear the Risen from the vaults. And it's a good excuse as well to use as many different gadgets and gizmos. I can't think of a better gadget and gizmo I'd like to use here in this instance. So, yeah, here we get to take them out. Weirdly, the combat music at this point as well changes from the exciting battle music to an ambient track. And I wonder whether it's supposed to be the other way around. Now you'd want the combat music. But hey, all right. So, yeah, we're just going to run through and clear all these guys out. Here's a badass-looking Norn who just transformed. I see that so rarely. My god, he turned into Raven as well, which feels even rarer than Bear. So basically, yeah, we're going to run on through, clearing these out. Most of the interactables and things we know and understand about the Priory are disabled right now. So you can't do anything particularly special here, but I guess if you're not a super completionist player, this will be the first time you come under here and realize that this is even an aspect, which is great. I think that the Priory, already, just from what we've seen, is one of the bigger, more exciting Order headquarters. And it's only going to get way cooler later. So there you go, look, we killed them all. We summoned a Flesh Reaver while we was at it as well. That's awesome. And, yeah, we can go up. You were amazing. I'm glad I got here in time, yes. Maybe they're all going to just call us amazing. Thank you for your help. You saved us. I'm glad I was here. That's cool that there's a slightly different version here. So, yeah, we saw all these guys. We don't have to worry too much. We've got a Vacuum Magic Polarizer. We've saved people. Let's go up and see how Gix is doing back up. Oh, dear. It's the one with a grate. I had to pick the one with the grate, didn't I? All right, let's come up this way instead. Hello, everyone. I'm feeling pretty souped up here. Oh, dear. What is this, then? So, the barrier goes down. I would have assumed they've got something to say here. Gix, are you okay? He definitely has dialogue. Okay, the barrier goes down, and there's a big bad Risen that has appeared before us. Lord Zim. Alajarin. It looks like there's more enemies all the way over there, who we have to save them from. So, again, a big Orion comes to visit each of the headquarters. Zim Alajarin, I'm not really sure I have too much trivia about. I'm not sure. It's likely his name means something in Turkish or Arabic or something. I really don't know 100%. With this, plus all of our minions, we should be fine. Another cool thing we can do, though, is we can summon our Druid Spirit, which is a Sylvari Elite. I don't think I've shown you yet. So check it out. It's on a whopping 240-second cooldown. Very few different skills are still at that higher cooldown in the game at this point. It's really beautiful. It's like a ghostly oak heart. And what it will do is immobe for long periods of time, which is pretty cool. It's very slow with its other animations. It doesn't last very long, and it doesn't do much else, to be honest. But I like using it, and I wanted to at least once. So yeah, let's during a good big boss fight against a scary risen undead that's struggling to kill our rock dog. Yeah, that means something. Where was all of his dialogue?
If we hadn't arrived in time, the Priory would have been lost. Thank the pale tree.
The Mother Tree is very wise. I'm glad we saw her. If the Priory had fallen, we'd never be able to defend Lion's Arch. Do you remember what she said? With unity, many impossible things can be achieved. She was right. The Priory can't fight Zaitan like this. We may have the knowledge, but we lack both an army and the resources.
We can't have that kind of peace-loving, low-down poltroon talk. Did the Risen strike you on the head? We cannot give up the struggle.
Steward, the other orders of Tyria share our concerns about the dragons. The Priory should contact them and divulge information on all.
Terrible idea. The Order of Whispers are underhanded backstabbers, and those brainless warmongers in the Vigil are even worse.
You're wrong, Winnet. They simply have their own ways of fighting Zaitan. Both would be staunch allies in this war.
Perhaps you're right. The fact that Zaitan could strike at the Priory's heart shakes me to the core. I trust you, Magister, and I trust Traherne. Go to the other orders. Set up a meeting. Tell them that the Dermond Priory respectfully wishes to negotiate terms of accord.
Thank you, Stuart. I'll do everything I can.
I find it quite interesting that that little moment of the story where we actually go to the headquarters doesn't really happen. And I wonder if that's because the devs wanted the 3 different branches to feel really pure. As in, you don't get to find out where the Chantry of Secrets is unless you are Order of Whispers. You don't get to visit, well, you can, in theory, visit the inside of both of those places, but the story won't take you to them unless you visit those things. But yeah, okay, cool. So there you have it. I'll make it no secret that I think this instance was fairly quickly slapped together by the devs. No extra dialogue from Gix at any point. No dialogue from Winnet, who just appears. No introduction. No extra dialogue from Chahern anywhere. A device that appears that probably players wouldn't know about. But the Priory is saved, and we can see that little kick that pushes all 3 orders to snap together and unify. Now, just before we go to negotiate those terms of accords, let's revisit the Priory because another little thing has unlocked I want to show you guys. And that thing, well, there's 2 things, really. First is Scholar Trueclaw. Now, let's remember, we've had many moments coming to Scholar Trueclaw. This is what Scholar Trueclaw says. Jotun, Massart, Forgotten Seer, and Dwarf. 5 against 6. It seems so unfair, and yet. And this person seemed to have get the numbers wrong and is a bit of a moron. But when you join the Order of Whispers, you realize that they're an Order of Whispers spy, and it makes sense that they might not know what they're talking about, right? Right? That's the working theory so far. But interestingly enough, when you are a member of the Dermond Priory, you also unlock new dialogue. What are you talking about? It's accepted that there were 5 sentient races who fought the Elder Dragons the first time and survived. I'm studying them and looking for hints among their relics on how they did it. Only 5 races, we ask? And she goes on, see? And she says, that we know of. This was a very long time ago, and I'm afraid none of them are coming forward with helpful information. Here's your last reference to the Tome of the Rubicon, guys. We have the Dwarven Tome of the Rubicon, but it's changed over the years. Changed how? Through copying and recopying as the physical material of the tome degraded with time. I would imagine, though other more political factors may have played a role. Remember I mentioned that elsewhere in the game when we were dealing with this potential Tome of the Rubicon that it was probably changed a lot by political factors, and that's mentioned elsewhere in the game. Here you go. This is where it is, and you only get that bit of information about the Tome of the Rubicon from Scholar Trueclaw if you're Dermond Priory. So a really beautiful NPC that does... There's a lot of layers, let me just be clear, whether they're all apparent yet to that. That you kind of only unlock through certain orders. Unfortunately, Vigil don't get anything special, and they very rarely get anything special. But there you have it. So yeah, the Central of the Priory, Cariflower's never actually communed with. Poor Casey did. This magically suspended tablets contain the amassed knowledge of the Priory, surging with power. The tablets' inscriptions emit a faint glow while they rotate around a central pillar of light. Right, let's grab this. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is back downstairs for kind of a fun new room that opens up.
Why is everything here written in Crichton? All those loops and swirls make my hands ache.
The humans say it's because Crichton is the most universal language.
How can it be universal? It only has one word for hunt.
You know, we could look at the cool, I said that's the last mention of the Tome of the Rubicon, in the library as well, which I showed before, but it would take hours to go through all of it. There is this book here as well. So many of them are very interesting. I recommend if you guys have got the game to come in and play and read these, but check this out, Discourse on a Tome. This is an interesting book for a few reasons. There's a lore discrepancy here. I'll read the tome, and then I'll see whether you guys can find the lore discrepancy. If you can, you're a proper nerd, and I love you. So here we go, check it out. Discourse on a Tome dated 1075 after the Exodus, which is Guild Wars 1 times, transcribed by scholar B.T. Kett, not Kecht, Kett, but similar, transcribed by scholar B.T. Kett during a panel on the Tome of the Rubicon, during the annual Dermond Priory Conference on Ancient Texts. Read it. Scholar Euryce Blackloom. I maintain the implausibility of it. The great dwarf's prophecies are the blusterings of a bored super being, assuming the tome isn't a forgery. And then to which Donald Fleck says, you deny there are magical configurations of which you know nothing? How can we ignore the warnings? The great destroyer may well rise one day. Blackloom responds, to consider for one moment that some great destroyer would rise, much less destroy all of Tyria? Preposterous! Such an event could never happen. To which Fleck says, Prophecies are inherently misleading. I do not propose that we should take it literally. Of course, the Great Destroyer will not rise, and the dwarves will not all be destroyed. And Blackloom says, then, what are you proposing? And Fleck says, I would suggest that an earthquake will destroy the dwarven holdings, and they will be forced to move, rebuild, and renew themselves. A rebirth of sorts. And Blackloom says, I must admit, your theory has merit. So, what's the lore discrepancy? This is a book talking about scholars speculating on what will happen to the dwarves before it happened in the year 1075 AE. So we're talking Guild Wars 1 times ages ago, and they were kind of half right when they were doing this conference. The lore discrepancy is the Dermond Priory didn't exist at that point, not for a long time, so there would be no way for them to have an annual Dermond Priory conference on ancient texts. But I guess whoever wrote that wasn't fully clear of that, or let's just say over the 250 years things broke a little. There are so many cool things, but I'm going to have to resist. Maybe over the series we'll slowly do things. Here's the main event. This office door, if you remember, we couldn't open before. This is the door to the office of the steward of the Dermond Priory, Gix. As a high-ranking magister, we now can open it. And what do we have? Well, a beautiful room with a thick book over in the corner. Entitled A History of Ebonhawk, this book discusses Ebonhawk's founding from the Char perspective and makes an effort to be as detached and even-handed as possible. Close the book. Why Gix has got that in here and he's reading it, I don't know, but there's lots of books. Why the devs allowed us to look at this in association with Gix, I don't know. Maybe the Priory has got plans for that treaty even more so than the Vigil. But who do we have? Two characters. First of all, we have Ogden. Speaking of the dwarves and the Tome of the Rubicon, here he is, a dwarf, the Stone Man himself. Now, he has had no prominence in the main story just yet. We did see him in the cutscene when we joined the Dermond Priory. And if you guys are like, wow, this is really weird, a strange character, I don't know enough about the dwarves yet, I can't believe there's a living, breathing one still on the surface, then good, you're in the right mind frame. You're not supposed to fully know. And it's curious what he does with the Priory. He works very much in the background, and you can tell he's pretty goddamn important because he's next to Gix. He is an old character. This is a character from the original game, hundreds of years old now, and he could tell Gix a hell of a lot to do with the Elder Dragons. What will he say to us just yet? Well, pretty much nothing. We know that he's at the Priory. If you remember, there's a point of interest just outside the Priory, which is his, little house, which we peered in but couldn't go inside when we first visited many episodes ago. But he won't say anything to us just yet. Now, we can press F and speak to him. He says, what do you want? I'm busy here. But the only dialogue options we get are related to legendary weapon crafting, and in truth aren't anything to do with the story here. So, yes, just a little reminder, that's what we'll treat this as, that there is a dwarf working at the Priory. He will have a role to play by the end, but it'll be a while. Over here as well, we have Gix, who has some dialogue. He says, I've received 15 proposals for books about you. You're an escalating topic. If this keeps up, we'll have to rename the Priory after you. Not really, ... Now, unfortunately, I guess I've missed it slightly. If we came to speak to Gix just before saving the Priory, he wouldn't say this. He'd say, we're going to reclaim Claw Island and we will avenge Siren, I promise. So there's cool little moments where you can come back to Gix from the first moment that that door opens. And yeah, just another reason why the Priory is such a beautiful, cool place to continuously return to. Kecht should be here as well, talking about his military dig, which, of course, hopefully you now know what that is. The military dig being the recovery of the Tome of the Rubicon. Awesome. Okay, time to go do our negotiations. Let's head back to Lion's Arch.
So, I see Gix stumbled out of his library, and the Preceptor crawled out of her hole.
I see you're not letting rationality get in the way of your ignorance, Almora. How predictable.
Who are you calling ignorant, you twitchy little bookworm?
When I joined my order, I swore to fight Zaitan. I will die for Tyria if I must. However, I believe that together we can win. And who knows more about the dragons than the Priory? Just think of how much there is to learn. Where else but in awe?
By the worlds of eternal alchemy, you're bold. But you're correct. Knowledge is useless if it is not used. We shall aid you.
We'll either cleanse the land or return to it.
Beautiful. All right. Good job, Caraflower. So, let's speak to the Priory from the Priory's perspective.
What is it?
Hey, Gix. I'm still leery at this idea, Magister. I hope you have the cogs and gears for this endeavor. I do. Tell me how well you know General Soulkeeper. Not well. Research suggests she's disciplined, militant, and somewhat frightening. And Halvora? Less. Legion training, her record's been expunged. All I know are rumors. Some grisly ones in there. Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Thank you very much. Win it. What do you think? Your willingness to face death is surprising. There's no way I'd let you have all the glory. Will you be joining the Unified Force then? Our scholars offered up a few new all-chemical compounds and developed a seed shot that takes advantage of the rotting forms of the Risen. That does sound useful. I look forward to seeing in action. Brilliant. And then the other big thing that we get is our allies. Karis and Tegwin, of course. And don't forget, these two were recruited alongside a ton of other Sylvari who all pledged to join the fight. Where are they? Hey, Karis. I've told Karis 100 times. Stay alert. I hope she remembers. I hope her training pays off. You're an excellent teacher. I'm sure you'll both be fine. And Tegwin, this is going to be tough, but Lion's Arch needs us. The Pale Tree needs us. I can do this. I really just want to take a second to appreciate the snapshot of what this is here. These are characters we have a ton of history with. They're characters that have appeared in our home instance for a while before leaving again, that have sent us extra mails throughout the story other characters wouldn't have, and now they're here and they're going to become our allies in a mission. It's brilliant. Imagine if there was tons more of that all the way weaved through the personal story. It's gorgeous, and the Sylvari really do get the pick of the litter when it comes to these two if you get through the right way. Okay, cool. So there you go. We've decided we are going to take the boats to Claw Islands, but I do want to take an opportunity while we're at Lion's Arch to show you another thing. Now, in a recent part of the series, we saw the Mystic Forge, and we pointed out that that's really one of the last big amenities within the city. But don't forget that the city does also host Asura Gates. And I showed you one of them already. I showed you this one. We went into there and demonstrated the PvP aspects of the game, which really you could play Guild Wars 2 and never touch anything you've seen in all 70s of these videos, and you could spend all your time in there, and many players indeed do. But then there was also this hub of other gates, a very special looking one in the middle, which we're going to ignore for now. But what about these other ones? What about the green gate, the red gate, the blue gate, the white, and the two white gates? Oh, well, and then the black gate over there. Well, these are all referring to another form of end game content, if you will, known as World versus World. So where should we go first? I guess the Obsidian Sanctum is good enough. Each gate takes you to a special, enormous, open world map within the mists that you can fight both NPCs and, you know, monsters and drakes and wildlife, and you can fight against other players. This is Guild Wars 2's version of open world PvP. And there's lots of different maps that you can do it on. We're on one right now called the Obsidian Sanctum. Because I'm trying not to die, I'm kind of terrified of going out there through this cave right now into the Sanctum, because other players at level 80 could come along and destroy me. But, you know, if you can go through this basically serves as a giant jumping puzzle-style dungeon where other players can attack you at the same time, and there's a chest at the end. But if I press M and go to my world map now, you'll notice we're no longer on Tyria, remember? We are in the Mist, and look at this. There is the Alpine Borderlands, there are the Desert Borderlands, more Alpine Borderlands, and the Eternal Battlegrounds. All of these being various locations that those Asura Gates would take us to. So just as PvP has a panel, World versus World has a panel too. And we can choose by clicking one of these buttons instead of going through the gates which one we want to head to. So for example, I might go to the Desert Borderlands, which was very newly added to the game within the context of World versus World. And you'll see we're somewhere completely different. These are vast territories and areas of the world. I have currently been assigned to the green team right now. And I will have tons of green allies. We can go out there in enormous zergs. This is where you get the massive warfare-style combat. And once again, you find a lot of players never spend any time doing the story or the main PvP. They do this as their main thing. And you get entire guilds and organizations and communities springing together all about this. Constantly updating and changing. Right now, the way that you are assigned a team is different to how it will be in the future when they'll have a formal alliance system and stuff that they're talking about. But as I record this video, It's not quite implemented yet, so at some point by the time you're watching this video, the whole thing might have changed, so I won't go into specific mechanics of that just yet. One day you might find I do have a very dedicated World vs. World series, but it's been a game type that I've spent reasonable amounts of time in, but then get burnt out of reasonably quickly. There's new ways to level, so you see I'm actually rank 847 right now. There's new skills you can earn, all kinds of awesome stuff, and I didn't think that this series would be complete without dipping in and showing you all exactly how it functions without, you know, going all the way. So we showed off the main PvP before, Heart of the Mists. We're showing off World vs. World now, and World vs. World is a vast amount of the Asura Gates just because there's so much territory to cover. Back when the game came out, some people did go from level 2 all the way up to level 80 within World vs. World, but that would be very hard these days when everyone's basically at max level now. A little bit more of a challenge. Hey, maybe a challenge I should take on one day. That leaves just one final Asura Gate, which isn't really to do with PvP formats at all, and will be of very particular note and interest, but should only really unlock once we beat the game. So, eventually you'll see me go into that one, but that's an explanation of all the others. Cool! With that done, and then there's that doorway over there, which we'll get to with the expansions. That's one of the last big things for Lion's Arch. Let's move on with the reclamation of Claw Island and Retribution. And can I just be clear that World vs. World is vast. You've only seen a small little bit through what I've showed here of like 2 of the maps. There's loads of maps and they're all enormous depending on the team you're on. It's good stuff. I feel like I didn't do it enough justice, but there you go. All right, hello, Carriflower on the boat. Familiar sounds of war and danger and death ambling around above us. And who do we get waiting for us this time? It's Tegwin, and she waves. Hi, Tegwin. Beckons us over and everything. That's a cool little emote. Do we get that as an emote? What happens when I wave? Do I get /beckon? Is that a thing? Let's see. Oh, I do get /beckon. Awesome. That's really cool. Okay, hi, Tegwin. Where's Karis? Do you have your gear? Remember your training. Keep your cool. We'll get through this. I'm ready. Where's Karis and the others? Thank you. Yeah, there were more Sylvari, right? On the upper deck, that Order of Whispers fellow, Dern, has them guarding some specialists. You'd better get up there. Oh, on my way. Right, so they've been talking to the Order of Whispers a little bit. Okay, Tegwin, let's go. You know, she doesn't actually have some introductory dialogue as we walk towards her, like some of the other characters do, and she never had a personality choice. Because we never got the personality choice, we never got to apply a permanent buff to her, so some slight differences on that. Let's move over.
Ah, our company is complete. Now that we're assembled, we can begin the briefing.
Is this what I think it is? How do they compress all those angles? Come on, Steve, just plug it in. I'm on my way, Preceptor.
I can never get bored of Zor, ever. And this time you'll notice that instead of generic Whispers and Pact NPCs, we actually instead have Wardens. Check it out, the Warden Ranger, the Warden Shield, and the Warden Scout. Now, the game is calling them Wardens there, despite the fact that, you know, Wardens are defenders of the Grove, and I don't really think that's correct. I think they're using the term Warden to you know, express that they are defending. But yeah, you get these allies. What's a bit of a shame is the devs kind of delete the regular allies to replace with the Wardens, so it's not exactly a perk for you. Not unless the Wardens are way, way, way better fighters, and I have no way of definitively knowing if that's true. But yeah, this is one of the big changes. You get Tegwin hanging around with you, and she'll follow you. Oh, here you go. We get Dignity option. It just unlocks a bit later. You've gathered an impressive force. Having seen all, though, I'm not sure it'll be enough. We have the Force and the Spirit. One day we will see all cleansed, she says, but she still didn't get the buff. So basically, yeah, you get these guys instead, and I believe after this little bit of an escort, they'll stay with us. This is the third way that Retribution can go. We get swarmed with NPC allies instead. There is, of course, Karis. We spoke to Karis. Where's Tegwin? Tegwin? Oh, here she is. She's at the back, but she's in combat right now. So let's kill these guys. Here, by the way, the Flesh Worm. Necrotic Traversal, it's a teleport that stun breaks us. So you see the worm all the way over there? If I use the Consume, I explode the worm, thus proccing our traits and port over to the body. It's also one of Necromancer's very few blast combo field finishers, the worm. Kind of a fiddly thing, but a very special skill, and that kind of mobility unlocks a lot on such a tanky, attritive kind of character as this. Or class as this, I should say. Hey, Tegwin. Yeah, we've seen you. Karis? It's less scary than Ore, but not by much. Keep your cool, Karis. You've been trained for this. Noble. I know, and I'll try. Thank you, Carriflower. I'm glad you're here. So there you go. Now, oh, there you go. She got the buff when we spoke to her. She has permanent might. Brilliant. And that makes a lot of sense because she's the muscle. She's the brute force.
Follow me, Karis, and stay close. We fight together, like on the beach.
I can do that. But Tegwin, that thing in the sky, it's horrible.
Don't look up at it. Don't think about it. Just keep your eyes on me, and you'll be fine.
Oh, that's so cool. They reference the beach and everything. Oh, which of course we fully know. So yeah, once you defend Zot, these guys will actually, the whole squad will stick with you and they will follow you for the rest of the mission. Unlike the prior, if you didn't go with these guys, where the escort would sort of detether from you. So that's kind of cool.
The ramparts are swarmed. We'll need to clear them of undead if we plan to utilize the siege engines.
Here's Lion Guard Apacia again. Hello, it's really nice to meet you. I'm still wondering what you're doing in this story instance, and we haven't seen very much of you just yet, but good luck with the rest of the battle. So one final thing I want to talk about as we move away from Apacia here, and everybody follows, is the other kind of options that are available in Retribution. So we've seen a fair few of them now. There's a beautiful grid here I just want to show you guys if we pull this up. Check it out. These are all that you've seen, various different mechanics at play. These are all of the possible ones based on the choices we could have chosen. So, for example, we've got Baron and Pharaoh there, who we never chose at all, but we could have recruited those, and the perk would be that they accompany us, with Baron accompanies us, and Pharaoh sets up a Psy Lance in place of one of the Trebs. You got Tegwin and Karis there, where some wardens of varying professions accompany us, and I'll edit out a little bit of a spoiler for the future there. We've got, with the Order of Whispers, could have gone with Ben 10 Strikes, remember? He would have been here with his mercenary crew. Instead, we picked up Professor Gore and got the Vacuum Magic Polarizer. And then for the Vigil, we could have Galena and Snarl that we know, or we could have got Fibha, and if we'd picked Fibha, we would have had a whole crew of Norn. Look at all of those Norn there that would have been coming with us, and they would have all been named, so you do get a lot of brute force if you pick them. But just a beautiful instance, and again, I've compared it to a mission at the end of Guild Wars 1 Factions, where you can choose different NPCs and it changes stuff a lot. And it's nice to see that they did it so well here, you know, for Retribution.
Well done. We've secured the docks.
Out of its reach. It's calling for the dead to arrive.
Life is fragile. Rest now.
Oh, look at all the Sylvari. Hey guys, Tegwin, what's going on?
All things have a right to grow.
I love how she's front and center as well, like the leader and the brains behind it. It's brilliant, because I mean, it would definitely be her, not Karis. More died than necessary. These soldiers need training. They know how to fight, but they don't know how to win. We'll teach them. There will be more victories. You guys going to continue on the march along? Surely you're not going to keep calling yourselves wardens, right? Karis, is it over? Are we done? Is the beast dead? Oh, by the pale tree, I was so frightened. Courage is overcoming fear and fighting. Well done. It's weird because she was never really particularly scared before, just a bit dim. Anyway, good job. You guys did brilliantly. You helped us take down Blightghast very well. Thank you. All right, Winnet. Hey, how you feeling? Having to pair up with Ifut there after you were both so cynical about this. A brave beginning. The Priory's engineers did a fine good job with the trebuchets, don't you think? Without you, none of this would have been possible. Siren would be very proud. This will be a difficult road, but we can do it together.
Zaitan waits at the center of all, surrounded by a nation of undead. The battle to destroy the dragon will not be easy, but it can be won.
You deserve some well-earned rest, my friend. Join me when you are ready, and together, we will find a way to slay Zaitan.
So here, by the way, as we level up, the game does teach us about ectoplasm before we use the forge. It gives you one for free as you level 68. Salvage rare and exotic gear that's level 68 or higher for globs. The globs can be used to purchase ascended accessories and to create high-level crafting goods. See, this is a big thing in the game, and if we got lucky, we could have salvaged some off, but unfortunately we didn't. Ooh, luckily, Caraflower, being very familiar with the Shiver Peak Mountains, it didn't take too long to get here. She's been to these areas nearabouts a fair few times. Many adventure with Siren. Hey, Historian Yoan. Oh, look, we get a mail. It's Kaith. She says darkness abounds. So let's recall where we are in the timeline here. Kaith has just been abandoned at TA. And now she's sending us this, okay? So she's probably not in a good place after what we saw there. Valiant. The world is cold and quiet. The chill in my heart feels as though I stand at the heart of winter, even if I know it is not so. I feel truly alone, save for you. I hear that you have done well and struck a mighty blow against Zaitan. I also hear that, along with the firstborn Traherne, you have at last begun the true battle, the invasion of Or. I mean, think about how important this is to Kaith. It's crazy that she's not been a little bit more focused on the pact here, but we are just getting started, and as we're getting started with this, she's kind of a bit messed up, and I think that makes a lot of sense. We're going to see several members of this adventuring band get messed up at various points, and this is a particularly grim, horrible moment for Kaith. Interesting to see how and if she pulls through it. She says, rumors of my companions abound. Ritlock and Logan travel north toward the Citadel of Flame. Well, we've heard bits and pieces of that. That's kind of right, Kaith, but also not. Zodja chases after Snaf's legacy, never realizing that it is more than golems and crystals. She is in danger. I spoke to Air at length and managed to convince her that we must go to aid our old friend. But my purpose no longer seems as clear. Not anymore. Why save the world when everything in it is falling apart? I hear of your victories, and I'm reminded, perhaps, that there is still a reason for hope. We'll meet again soon. This is such a weird, conflicted message at this point because it's such a big victory on our end and such a horrible defeat on Kaith's right now. I love this scene that we, again, hear about but don't see, that she had a lengthy conversation with Air, and the two will end up going to Sorrow's embrace. Hopefully they'll be fine on their own or have the assistance of some other adventuring heroes. But we kind of want to focus a bit more on Traherne here. We're making good progress.
Glad to see you after that mess at Claw Island. Siren was unique. She will be missed.
Unique is a nice way of putting it, certainly, Winnet. Thank you for reminding us of our old friend. Losing Siren's a terrible blow to the Priory, but we need to look forward. The dragons will not give us time to mourn. We must press on. I will. But the world is a lot more somber without her. There you go, the word somber appearing, right, as we described Kaith's situation. So maybe it is for us as well. No, sort of happy. It's particularly stinging for the Priory because so much of our time in the mountains was lightened by the experience of her being there, and now we're in the mountains again and alone, and it is sad. Right, okay, let's see what Traherne's got, because there's another friendly face we haven't seen for a while here.
I'll begin preparing our new headquarters at the Terzetto site, which I have codenamed Fort Trinity. I look forward to seeing you all there. Please, Commander. I'd like to speak with you.
Brilliant. Sure, Traherne, that's fine. I'll speak to you in a second, but check it out. We got these crafters. Izu Stillshrike being a stranger of the Tengu. Bagarth being a stranger of the Norn, towering above us. Remember, Silvaria, generally speaking, slightly shorter than humans, and Norn are massive. And then next, we have Occam. It's good to see you again. It's been a while, my friend. Hello again, Valiant, he says. I don't like all this activity, but I'm proud to be invited. After that business with Bersalak, I could stand to see my creations used for good. And indeed, I believe he suggested that he wanted to do such a thing. So it makes so much sense that he comes to the pact here and we get that little bit as our old friend once again re-steps into the spotlight. Welcome, Occam. I trust you've been well? I have. The Nightmare Court has left me alone since that dreadful Bersalak affair. I expect Kaith has had a hand in that. Yeah, probably. The assault on Twilight Arbor probably gave them other things to do. You deserve some peace and quiet, Occam. I'll talk to you later. Wow, I mean, we kind of get the position he's in. There's kind of a level of guilt that's got him into this. But hey, maybe Traherne knows that as well, if you think about it. So, Kekt is back. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anything to say to recognize us, Caraflower in the cave. We're just immediately all business. But hey, that's fine. It's because of the risen threat. We really need to get you out of here right now. Of course, there's a way out to the south. I theorize it will have fewer risen compared to the direction you just came from. Sounds perfect.
Stand by to withdraw. Commander, you lead the way. Zari, please escort the research teams back to Concordia. Commander, you're with me.
Woo! What a victory. Man, having a billion of my minions with a billion of Traherne's was brilliant. Don't worry about me. I won't stray far from the experienced personnel here to protect me. Was there something you needed? No, it's okay, Kekt. Did you know your name's very close to Ket, who was looking into this many years ago? Anyway, hey Traherne. Well done, Commander, but this is the first step in a long, perilous journey. From here on, things will get more difficult. I'm ready for whatever Zaitan has in store. And so the pact is forged. Caraflower takes up the title of Pact Commander. Traherne, the Pact Marshal. And, well, what's our next job then? it seems we have a quest called Striking Off the Chains. Stop the crate slaving operation near Nommoa Lake. Meet Crusader Apatia on the shore of Nommoa Lake? Huh. Crusader Apatia? Why do I recognize that name? It's to do with the crate. Well, Caraflower is no stranger to the crate, having dealt with them around the Tarnished coast. Looks like Jahan's got something of a special job for us. Huh. I guess we'll make our way there for the next arc very shortly. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
About your dream. Does it give you exact directions?
Not as such. Generalities mostly. Enough to bring me to the vigil.
I see. Did it show you anything else? Gold? Buried chests? A map with a big X? Anything like that?
No. Not that I remember.
Okay, listen up. Some people here would rob you and toss you aside like a dead rat. So if you remember anything at all about gold, come to me. I'll make sure nothing happens to you.
GJ Itz remarks, I never really noticed a packed aesthetic till you pointed it out. I'm noticing a lot of Charish construction and materials, human-ish architecture, and Asuran-ish technology are Norn or Silvari represented in places that I'm missing. I definitely think the idea is that it is all the races. They could have gone with a different sense, which is that it's the three orders and you see those combine. But I think there's a challenge either way. To me, I do feel like there's some Silvari influence there. That kind of barbed wire, kind of rocking around the blue beams of light and things feels a bit like Silvari thorn walls and stuff to me, but there's no hard and fast rules about this, and I don't have a great eye for aesthetics. Other people might be able to give you a better sense. The idea for Norn as well is generally big things, and I think it's fair to call Fort Trinity big in scale, so maybe we can nod towards the Norn for that. But it is very cool. Cool comment, and again, guys, if you have any thoughts of your own at the end of these videos, feel free to take a couple of seconds to drop them below. I love and read every single one of them.